Dr. Young, on behalf of the Lincoln County Health System Board of Trustees, the medical staff, the employees, and last but not least, the thousands of children that you have taken care of, I personally want to thank you for the 38 years of dedicated and outstanding service and the medical care that you have provided during your years as a pediatrician in Lincoln County. When I think of a pediatrician, the words compassionate, kind, funny, and gentle immediately come to mind. And when I think about Dr. Bill Young, those are the same words I would use to describe you. Although I have only had the opportunity to work with you for about 9 years in my role as the CEO of the health system, I feel fortunate and proud to have known you and to have been able to work with you. Dr. Young, you have touched the lives of countless Lincoln Countians during your years as a pediatrician. And for that, as a token of our appreciation and gratitude, we have put together this video to recognize and honor you for all that you have done during this time. Again, I want to thank you for your years of service, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Dr. Bill's been a family friend of my family, the Thomas family, for many years, and he was my pediatrician and my brother's pediatrician and my daughter's pediatrician. And I just want to thank him for being a positive role model in our lives and being a positive influence as a pediatrician for my daughter to go to. I know there was many times that he didn't think he was going to help raise us between the broken arms and the fish hooks. And Joey said to tell you that whenever you're ready to go fishing, he's ready to go, but I'm not going after the fish hook. I hope you have a good retirement, and we miss you, but we know we'll get to see you, and I love you.
Ha sido un placer muy grande para mí conocerlo a través de mi trabajo aquí en el hospital. Lo admiro mucho por su trabajo incondicional de misionero médico en Honduras, siempre ayudando a los más necesitados y especialmente a los niños. Siempre lo voy a extrañar porque todos los días venía por mi oficina y decirme buenos días. Espero que disfrute su retiro muy grande con sus nietecitos y sus demás familiares. Muchas felicidades.
Dr. Young is a very professional doctor. He was my pediatrician for my daughter from her birth until she was probably 18. And he also has been the pediatrician for my granddaughter until he retired. And he's a very professional man, a very caring man. He always, if he seen you after he treated her, he was always wanting to know how she was doing, if she was better, if she'd had any side effects or anything from the medicine. He was always very caring.
Hello, Dr. Young. It was a pleasure for me to meet you while working here in the hospital. I admire you a lot for your unconditional work as a medical missionary in Honduras. You're always helping people, especially children. I'm going to miss you coming by my office every day, saying good morning, and I hope that you have a good retirement and enjoy your grandchildren and the rest of your family. Much happiness in your retirement.
He took all 3 of my children, Phil, Wendy, and Ben, the day they were born, and took care of them for me. Several crises that he saw us through, and we just appreciate him. He was always available and made us so comfortable, and just you could call him during the night or on the weekends, whatever, you could call him at home, and he took care of us.
When I think of Dr. Young, the doctor, I think of a very dedicated, caring individual. He's always around when you need him, never hesitated to come in when we need him professionally, just very dedicated to his patients and his profession. Actually, Dr. Young has treated 3 generations of my family. He might not want me to advertise that, but I don't have any grand story of him snatching us from the jaws of death, but he's gotten us through a lot of bumps and bruises and ear infections and things of that nature over the years.
When Kelly was getting her checkup before she went into kindergarten, he discovered that she had a swollen optic nerve, and there was a little concern right then that she might have a brain tumor, which of course was very frightening to me as a mother. I will never forget how concerned and caring and supportive of us Dr. Young was during that time. And he knew we were frightened about the possibility of a brain tumor, and he was very supportive. And I will never forget him for that on a personal level.
When I heard about the tribute to Dr. Young, I had lots of memories to go through my head. I've known Bill all my life. In fact, the Youngs and the Pittses are related. And one of my husband's favorite stories was of when he and Bill were going to school together. Bill had a car and Bud didn't. And they were going down the hill on College Street, and they hit a bump, and they saw a tire rolling down the road, and they soon realized it was a tire off of Bill's car. I think it was a Model T. Dr. Young was there when we were raising our children, and when the children were told to eat good food or take their medicine or drink lots of liquids, just telling them that Dr. Young said so was enough to make them do what we asked them to. Dr. Young, thank you for being there through the years as a friend and helping us to raise our children. Good luck on your retirement.
He was actually both of our doctors when we were much younger, and he's been wonderful as far as trying to care for 3 boys at the same time, and one which he luckily retired before he had to deal with too much here on the floor. He had him for a little bit, but he's always been a friend. As I told my wife, my earliest memory of him, which is probably not a good one, but I broke my arm and they set it and it didn't work out right, and Dad brought me back months later to reset it, and I just remember having gas in my head spinning around as they re-broke my arm to fix it. But that's probably my earliest memory at the doctory, and that was with Dr. Young.
Well, between Dr. Young and Miss Debbie, they both took care of us. So Dr. Young would, I called him at home, and if anything, if I had a question, if I wasn't sure about something, he'd just say, bring them in and we'll check it out.
As a doctor, he treated every child the same. It didn't matter whether they were black, white, mixed, whether they were clean or dirty. He would always pick that child up and love them. I guess over all the years, and even with my own children and grandchildren even now, not only was he that doctor to them, but they all loved him as a best friend, and they'd come down the hall just wanting to be picked up and hugged and kissed, and he was always willing to do so. As I said, sometimes you'd go in the room and you'd just think, please let me out of there, and he'd still be in there, and that child received that hug and kiss just like the cleanest of all of them.
During the course of the time that I worked with Dr. Young, and of course when I had my baby, he became a pediatrician as well. Trusted him to the max. What can I say except that I enjoyed working with him, I miss him, and I feel like he's a great friend and a wonderful doctor.
I'd like to say that when I came to work here in 1973, I worked in the obstetrics department first, and I first ran into Dr. Young there. He helped tremendously with some of my learning as far as neonatals go, and all the time that I had dealings with him was usually in the middle of the night. Usually in the middle of the night, you're not in the best of moods when people wake you up. But he was always pleasant. He always was helpful to me. He made me feel welcome when I came there, and he made me realize that I had found the right place to work. All I would like to say to Dr. Young is that it's been a great privilege knowing you and your wife, Suzanne, and that I wish the best for you, and I know This goes without saying that everybody here will miss you. But please continue to remember us and come and see us when you can. Thank you.
Bill, I'm happy to honor you on this occasion and regret that we didn't have more clinical encounters as a adult medicine person versus pediatrician. We didn't work closely in that way, but you were an influence and a mentor to me nonetheless. I learned the responsibility that we as physicians have to our community as a whole and to the healthcare facilities through your work in local government and with the hospital as well. So you've taught me a lot in that regard. You've been an example as a medical missionary, and I hope to be able to follow in your footsteps in that way as well. I wish you well in retirement and hit a few golf balls and do some hunting for me too.
I'd like to say to Bill and Suzanne, one thing I've enjoyed throughout the years in the past is our mission trips to Honduras. That was always a treat and a pleasure.
In my years in dealing with him and knowing who he was before I started working here, I always heard people talk about how good a clinician, that he didn't do a lot of x-raying and all things like that, that he had a good feel for when you go in there and you tell him what's wrong, he could just really pinpoint and not have to do a lot of extra stuff like some doctors do. You know, I just like he has a good clinical feel for the patients.
He got me through my son's childhood, a nervous first-time mom, and he always knew what to say to put me at ease and to make me feel better and take care of Adam at the same time.
He's very easygoing. Never saw him get frustrated or lose his temper, even though medical practice, particularly pediatrics, sometimes can be frustrating. He's very gentle with his patients and gentle with me as a new physician, learning some things.
First of all, what I'd like to say to Dr. Young is thank you very much for being there. Fayetteville has always been very fortunate to have you. From the health department standpoint, I'd like to say a big thank you because you've always been a wonderful resource to our public health nurses, and I don't even know that you knew how much you meant to them, but it was always so reassuring for them to be able to know that you were one phone call away if they had any questions or concerns on a patient. And Sarah Jennings, the public health nurse for years at the health department, has always told me how important you were to us in the early years, and I'd like to say a big thank you for that part of it. Then, as a parent, I'd like to say an even bigger thank you. You've always been there for all three of my children, and I'll never forget the first experience at your office when I came in with my first newborn child. I had been to an office visit at the pediatrician that dismissed her from the hospital in Huntsville, and was really kind of disappointed in the examination that I got there. They took a measuring tape and had a big loop in it and measured her, and she had seemed to have grown 3 inches, which I knew wasn't possible, and I was very disappointed. Then the first visit that I had with you, you checked every nook and cranny on the child and every reflex, and I was just so impressed and have always known that you were just so knowledgeable. Anytime I got any public health information, you had already told me about that, and so I had all the reassurance of that you were a wonderful doctor, and I always knew that you loved my children, and then you were such a good Christian that I knew we had all three things going for us, and there was no way that there wasn't anything that you couldn't handle, and I appreciate that. So, and even though you stuck with me through the older two, and then look at me, this little thing that you've helped bring along. So I just want to say a big thank you.
Thank you for everything, Dr. Young, and thank you for always healing me. I don't know if it was what you did to me that healed me or if it was just seeing your kind face, but I really miss you now, and I can't walk in the doctor's office without remembering you. Mwah.
Our daughter Wendy swallowed a lot of marbles when she was like 2 years old, and I panicked and took her to see him, and he calmly took care of us and took us on to the hospital, and we worked through all that, and she's fine.
One Saturday when my son was suddenly took ill, I called Dr. Young, and he said he needed to see Adam, and I asked did he want us to meet him up at the hospital, and he said no, come to the clinic. And it being Saturday, I thought that was kind of strange, and then when we got to the clinic, I realized that he was in his fox hunting garb, and he didn't want anybody else to see him in his boots and his riding habit, and it was cute. He looked very dashing.
A wonderful person, a good citizen, and a good friend. Our families have been really close, and our children are the same ages. We got married the same month, and have just always been real close. And he's been admired in the community, and just a wonderful person.
He just always seemed to be a very caring person. He always had a smile on his face, and he always greeted everyone. He was just very friendly.
I know he always cared about his patients and also cared about others because of his several years of mission work, caring for those that are less fortunate. Very caring individual, always concerned about his fellow man.
I think of a very honest individual, hardworking, a Christian person. It's hard to separate out the professional and the person. He's just very dedicated to his job and his family, and a very nice person to work with.
He's very nice. He treats you with respect. He talks to you very cordially, and I know he talks to his patients the same way.
Always smiling. I never saw him when he wasn't smiling. He always treated us very respectfully, and always courteous.
There's too much to tell on Dr. Young. That one of the finest fellows you'd ever know, probably a mainstay in the community, a man of his word, a good Christian man. That he's my friend and will always be my friend. Counsel, his wisdom, unbelievable. When he speaks, E.F. Hutton even listens to you. And Bill is one of those unusual people that once you've met him, you remember him. He may be small in stature, but he wears some big shoes.
I would like to thank him for being such a good physician and a good friend. He's always treated us with respect here at the hospital. Like I say, he was always a good physician. He always went above and beyond, I believe, a physician with caring for my child and my granddaughter. And I would just like to thank him for all the years that he did that, and for the professionalism that he's shown and the caring that he's shown.
I love you, and best of luck in your retirement.
Just that I think he was always admired as a physician and as a man, and he treated everyone with respect, and I hope that he gets the respect that he deserves.
But we are very thankful for all his years of love and service and care for us and our family.
I'd just like Dr. Young to know that we appreciated him and all the hard work and dedication that he's given us over the years, and I enjoyed working with him as both a professional and a person, and we're going to sorely miss him here at the facilities.
I hope you're enjoying your retirement, and I'm getting to see now what it means to be a grandparent with Nathan, and I just want to say thanks for all of the fun memories and helping me raise my children, and the spiritual leader that you've also been, as well as a boss. And just take care, and I love you, and I'll never forget you.
Dr. Young, I want you to know how important you've been to this community. As a mother and a nurse, I realize you've treated literally thousands of children in this community. We love you and we appreciate you. Happy retirement.
It would be, I do miss him a lot, and I miss his smiling face, and I miss seeing him in the halls.
I wish him all the happiness in the world and a nice retirement.
I would wish him as long a retirement as he spent in practice.
Just that we'll miss him, but he's still going to be enjoying, I know, out on the river fishing. Just don't fall out of the boat, Bill.
Well, I have to say that Dr. Young was my pediatrician. So, and that's not a reflection on his age, it's a reflection on the fact that I'm younger than I look. So, but Dr. Young really was the reason that I went into pediatrics, and he's the prime reason that I came back to Fayetteville to practice. And I really appreciate Dr. Young. He was a friend to me as I was growing up, and he and his wife Suzanne took care of me for a while when I was in high school after my mother passed away, and that had a tremendous influence on the rest of my life. And really, again, I guess it was his influence that convinced me that pediatrics was the specialty where I wanted to work and serve. And when I got through with my military commitments, I came back to Fayetteville and went into practice with Dr. Young. And he taught me a lot of valuable lessons, and taught me a lot of things that were not in the book, and specifically just on relating to people and dealing with children, and really showed me that medicine was not just about science but was about the heart. And I just appreciate his friendship. I appreciate his care of me when I was young and growing up, and appreciate his love and concern, and appreciate his teaching and mentoring. And I just have a big place in my heart for Dr. Bill Young.
Dr. Young, as my daddy would have said, you come from a good line of people. You had a good mom and a good daddy. More than that, you know that the very painting that we did back in 1998 depicted your ancestor as being one of the first physicians that ever settled in Lincoln County. And as a result of that, we've had the privilege and the grace and the benefit of your services over the many years, as well as many of your other relatives that made doctors and medical professionals. There's going to be a void in that community without you, but we're not going to actually be seeing you leave. We're just going to be seeing you slow down a little bit. I've had the privilege of serving on the hospital board with you and sit at a table just like this, and I learned a lot from you about hospital business, about healthcare business, and I learned how to be a better public servant. But most of all, most importantly, I learned by looking at you and observing you what a true Southern gentleman is really like. And if there's anything that I think needs to be said from me as a representative of the people of Lincoln County is we appreciate the grace and the gentleness that you treated each and every one of us, but especially our children, mine being included. Grown, married now, but I think he still considers Dr. Young his doctor. And so many of us appreciate that for what you did. You kept them well, and you treated them when they needed it and when sickness called. And we thank you for your dedication to Lincoln County and to our community.
Well, Dr. Young, you know the Crawfords and the Youngs have a long history together. Now, I would like to tell a lot of the tales about you and my father on the golf course, but I don't think we need to share those right now. They were all very interesting, but we'll save those for another time. I do want to say thank you that all you've done for the community, and as a past president of the Lincoln County Health System Foundation, I understand more and more why you were interested in this community and helping with the health system. My children, you were their doctor, my sister's children, and a lot of the friends. And again, we greatly appreciate everything. I have 2, 3 little funny things that you probably don't remember. My son was one of the first patients, if not actually maybe the first patient. You still had boxes in your office. You were not completely set up. We were fixing to go out of town and he started running a high fever and my mother called you. You said, come on in, and we came in literally sitting on boxes and while you were setting up, and you saw my son. Of course, another thing was the time when my son swallowed a quarter and we couldn't figure out what to do on that. And just several others. And people, I would always say, Dr. Young gave my children shots. They kept saying, no, Dr. Young doesn't give shots. And I couldn't figure out why mine got shots and nobody else did. Then I realized they always got sick right before your vacation, or they got sick on Christmas Eve, or they got sick right before Thanksgiving. So I laughingly said they got sick at a good time because they got a shot and got well faster. And another thing is the birth of Stephanie, my niece. Thank you. You held our hand and you took wonderful care of us. And she's a grown, wonderful woman now. So thank you very much, Dr. Young.